The Star, a fantasy sleep story, presented by Bedtime Stories. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath. And now, let the story begin. The Vale of Starfall was a place woven from twilight and ancient whispers. Nestled deep within the emerald embrace of the whispering woods, its people lived lives attuned to the slow, rhythmic breath of the world. Here, the very air tasted of pine and cool moss, and the river, known as the Silver Thread, sang a constant lullaby as it tumbled over smooth gray stones. But the true heart of Starfall, the reason for its name, lay not in the verdant earth or the singing water, but in the sky above. No other place in the known lands could boast such a canvas of night. On clear evenings, which were most evenings in the Vale, the sky would ignite with a brilliance that defied description. Stars, countless as grains of sand, cascaded across the velvet expanse, painting trails of silver and gold. Legends said that the veil between worlds was thin here, and that the stars themselves often leaned closer, listening to the dreams of the sleeping Vale folk. Sometimes a star would truly fall, a shower of meteors like diamonds scattered by an invisible hand, leaving streaks of transient light. These were celebrated, marveled at, and their fleeting beauty was woven into songs and stories passed down through generations. Elara knew these stories well. She lived with her grandmother Lyra in a small cottage perched on the edge of the woods, its roof thatched with straw gathered from the highest meadows. Their home smelled of dried herbs, parchment, and the lingering scent of wood smoke. Lyra was the Vale's designated star weaver, a title given to those who remembered the old ways, who could read the constellations like a book of prophecies, and who held the deepest reverence for the celestial dance. Elara, at 13 summers, was her apprentice, though she didn't yet know it. Elara was a quiet girl, her spirit as gentle as the dawn mist that often clung to the Vale's highest peaks. Her hair, the color of rich earth, was usually braided with wildflowers she'd gathered on her morning rambles, and her eyes, the deep hue of a forest pool, held a perpetual spark of wonder. While other children her age chased fireflies in the meadows or spun tales of daring adventures with imaginary dragons, Elara often found herself drawn to the hush of the ancient woods, or more often, to the silent grandeur of the night sky. She would spend hours on the small moss-covered porch of their cottage, bundled in a woolen shawl, simply watching. Lyra would often join her, a knowing smile playing on her wrinkled lips. "The stars, little stargazer," Lyra would murmur, her voice like rustling leaves, "are not merely pinpricks of light. They are the eyes of ancient beings, the memories of forgotten worlds, and sometimes the very seeds of new beginnings." She taught Elara the names of the constellations, the Great Bear, the Hunter's Arrow, the Weeping Willow. She spoke of the legends of the celestial serpent that guarded the moon, and the playful star sprites that sometimes slipped through the sky to dance on the highest mountain peaks. For Elara, the night sky was not just a ceiling, but a living, breathing tapestry of magic and mystery. One particular evening, as the sun dipped below the jagged silhouette of the Dragon's Teeth Mountains, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and soft lavender, Elara felt a peculiar shift in the air. It wasn't a sudden change, but a slow, almost imperceptible drawing in of breath by the world itself. The usual evening chorus of crickets and frogs seemed muted, as if holding its tongue. The wind, which usually whispered secrets through the towering sentinel trees, was utterly still. Even the Silver Thread River seemed to flow with an unusual quietude, its babbling softened to a mere murmur. "The air is heavy tonight, little one," Lyra observed, stirring a pot of fragrant mushroom stew over the hearth. Her gaze, though fixed on the embers, seemed to penetrate beyond the cottage walls, into the very fabric of the fading day. "The stars are restless." Elara nodded, a shiver tracing its way down her spine despite the warmth of the fire. She felt it too, a tingling sensation on her skin, a faint hum that resonated deep within her chest. After dinner she couldn't settle. The stories Lyra told by the fire, usually so comforting, felt overshadowed by an unspoken anticipation. She excused herself early, promising to be careful, and slipped out onto the porch. The sky, when it finally unveiled itself, was breathtakingly clear, yet different. The stars, instead of their usual steady gleam, seemed to pulse, to throb with an inner light. They shimmered as if seen through rising heat or through tears. A faint, almost imperceptible blue-green aura seemed to emanate from the very depths of space, bathing the familiar constellations in an otherworldly glow. It was beautiful, yes, but it was also unsettling. It was not the gentle, comforting light Elara knew. It was a sky holding its breath. She sat there, mesmerized, her eyes tracing the familiar patterns, but her mind searching for something new, something other. The minutes stretched into an hour, then 2. The air grew colder, but Elara didn't notice. Her entire being was focused upwards. Then, it began. It wasn't a meteor shower, not the usual scattering of bright dust that streaked across the sky in a fleeting display. This was singular, deliberate. High above, near the constellation of the sleeping giant, a single point of light began to grow. It wasn't a sudden flare, but a slow, steady intensification, as if a distant star were drawing closer, growing brighter, swelling in magnitude. It pulsed, a soft, rhythmic beat of light, blue, then violet, then a brilliant, pure white. Elara gasped, her breath catching in her throat. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. This was unlike anything she had ever seen, anything Lyra had ever described. This star was not burning out. It was coming alive. It began to descend, not plummeting in a fiery arc, but drifting, almost floating, towards the Vale. Its light grew stronger with every passing moment, casting long ethereal shadows across the ancient trees. The blue-green aura that had permeated the sky now seemed to coalesce around this descending light, like a shimmering shroud. A low, resonant hum began to vibrate through the air, too deep to be heard with the ears, but felt in the bones. It was a sound that spoke of unimaginable distances, of cosmic music, of ancient power. The forest, which had been so quiet, now seemed to lean in, its branches swaying almost imperceptibly, as if in silent awe. The star grew larger, its form becoming more defined. It wasn't a jagged rock, or a fiery comet. It was a sphere of pure, pulsating light, an orb of shifting colors, sapphire, amethyst, emerald, all swirling within a core of brilliant white. It descended slower now, almost majestically, towards the heart of the whispering woods, towards a clearing Elara knew well, a place where the oldest, most gnarled trees formed a natural amphitheater. A soft, almost silent thud. The light, though still intensely bright, seemed to soften, to settle. The hum faded into a gentle thrumming that still vibrated in the air, a ghost of its former intensity. The forest, after a moment of stunned silence, let out a collective sigh, the leaves rustling, the night creatures resuming their calls, but with a new, subdued tone. Elara stood frozen on the porch, her eyes wide, her entire body tingling with a mixture of terror and profound wonder. A star had fallen. A true star. Not a fragment, not a meteor, but something that felt utterly, impossibly alive. And it had landed in Ivory Woods. An irresistible pull, like an invisible thread tugging at her very soul, began to draw her forward. She knew she should tell Lyra, should wake her grandmother, but the thought felt distant, secondary. This was her secret, her discovery. A quiet voice deep within her whispered, "Go, find it." Without another thought, Elara grabbed her thickest shawl, wrapping it tightly around herself, and slipped off the porch. The world outside felt different now. The familiar path into the woods, usually a comforting friend, was now imbued with an electric anticipation. The shadows cast by the moon and the lingering glow from the fallen star danced with a new, living quality. She moved with an urgency she rarely felt, her soft leather boots barely disturbing the mossy ground. The path was dark, but the faint ethereal glow emanating from deeper within the woods served as a beacon. The air grew warmer as she approached, not a hot, burning warmth, but a gentle, comforting heat, like a sun-warmed stone. The scent of pine and damp earth was now mixed with something else, a clean, metallic tang, like ozone after a storm, but also a sweet, almost floral note, reminiscent of night-blooming jasmine. The trees grew taller here, their ancient branches interwoven overhead, creating a canopy so dense that only slivers of the night sky could be seen. But, through this natural cathedral, the light pulsed, drawing her ever closer. Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm, a drum beat against the quiet magic of the night. Every rustle of leaves, every distant hoot of an owl, made her jump, yet she pressed on, driven by an unshakable curiosity. Finally, she broke through a thicket of ferns and thorny brambles, emerging into the clearing she knew so well. It was a circle of ancient, moss-covered stones, where the Vale folk sometimes gathered for quiet ceremonies, a place where the oldest trees stood like silent sentinels. And there, in the very center, nestled amidst a bed of crushed moss and wildflowers, was the star. It was larger than she had imagined, about the size of a child's head, multifaceted like a perfectly cut gem, but without sharp edges. Its surface was smooth, translucent, and pulsed with a soft inner light that shifted colors in a slow, hypnotic dance. Deep indigo, shimmering silver, vibrant gold, then a soft, comforting green. It didn't cast harsh shadows, but rather diffused light, illuminating the clearing in a dream-like glow. It hummed, a gentle, almost imperceptible vibration that resonated through the earth and up into Ilara's bare feet. She approached it cautiously, her hand outstretched, then drawing back, uncertain. It looked like nothing she had ever seen. It wasn't metal, or stone, or crystal in any way she understood. It seemed to be made of pure, condensed light, held together by an invisible force. There was no sign of impact, no scorch marks, no broken branches. It rested there as if it had always belonged, as if it had simply chosen this spot. Taking a deep breath, Ilara extended her hand once more, slower this time. Her fingertips brushed against its surface. A surge. Not pain, but a rush of warmth, a current of pure energy that flowed from the star, through her fingers, up her arm, and directly into her heart. It was a warmth that was both physical and spiritual, filling her with a sense of boundless ancientness and vibrant newness, all at once. For a fleeting moment she saw images, not with her eyes, but with her mind's eye. Vast, swirling nebulae, distant suns burning with impossible colors, the silent, graceful dance of celestial bodies. She felt the echo of immense journeys, of light traveling across eons, of profound purpose. A faint whisper, like the rustle of cosmic winds, brushed against the edges of her awareness, too elusive to grasp with words, but leaving behind a feeling of deep longing and profound hope. The star pulsed brighter beneath her touch, its colors swirling faster, as if acknowledging her presence, responding to her. The hum intensified, vibrating through her very bones, settling in her chest, a gentle, steady beat that now mirrored her own heart. It was not just an object. It was alive, aware, and somehow, it was reaching out to her. Ilara withdrew her hand, tears pricking at her eyes, not from sadness but from an overwhelming sense of wonder and connection. She knew, with a certainty that resonated through every fiber of her being, that this was no ordinary fallen star. This was something extraordinary, something magical beyond words, something that had chosen Bedtime. A powerful instinct rose within her. Protect it. Keep it safe. This beautiful, luminous being of light needed her. Carefully, reverently, she reached for the star again. It felt warm, smooth, impossibly light for its size. Its inner light pulsed, casting a soft, dancing glow on her face. She unwrapped her woolen shawl, its thick fabric a comfort against the cool night air, and gently, tenderly, swaddled the star within its folds. The light, though muffled, still shone through the weave, turning the gray wool into a beacon of shifting hues. Holding it close to her chest, feeling its gentle thrumming against her skin, Ilara turned and began her journey back through the ancient woods. The forest, which had felt mysterious on her outward trek, now felt like a silent confidant, its shadows no longer daunting, but welcoming. The air still hummed with a faint echo of the star's presence, and Ilara felt as though she walked within a dream she never wanted to end. Back in her small room, the moonlight streaming through the window, Ilara carefully unwrapped the star. Its light filled the small space, chasing away the shadows, painting the familiar walls in a tapestry of shifting colors. She found a small wooden chest, usually reserved for Lyra's most precious herbs, and gently placed the star inside, tucking it beneath a soft linen cloth. Even hidden, its faint glow permeated the wood, a quiet promise of magic. She climbed into her bed, but sleep would not come. Her mind raced with questions, with a sense of awe that bordered on disbelief. What was it? Why had it come? Why had it chosen her? The feeling of its warmth, the memory of the images, the silent whisper. It all swirled within her, a whirlwind of wonder. The world had changed, profoundly and irrevocably, in the space of a single night. Elara, the quiet stargazer of Starfall Vale, now held a secret brighter and more ancient than any star in the sky. And she knew, with the quiet certainty that only true magic could bestow, that this was only the beginning. The quiet certainty settled into Elara's bones, a warmth far deeper than the lingering glow in her memory. It was the certainty of a seed planted in fertile earth, knowing it would one day push through the soil and reach for the sun. The world had indeed changed, not just around her, but within her very core. She was no longer just Elara, the quiet stargazer. She was a vessel, a keeper of a secret so profound it hummed in the air around her, yet was utterly invisible to all but her. The first rays of dawn, usually a welcome sight painting the eastern mountains in hues of rose and gold, felt different that morning. They seemed to dance with a new vibrancy, as if acknowledging the profound shift that had occurred. Elara rose from her pallet, her movements slower, more deliberate, as if she were moving through water. She glanced at her hands, half expecting to see a faint luminescence, but there was nothing outwardly visible. Yet, the warmth was there, a gentle thrum beneath her skin, centered in her chest, a steady, comforting pulse. She went through her morning rituals, lighting the hearth, preparing a simple breakfast of spiced bread and berry tea, but her mind was far away, replaying the images, the silent whisper, the inexplicable connection. The starseed, as she had begun to think of it, felt like a miniature sun nestled within her, radiating a serene energy. It wasn't intrusive nor demanding, but a quiet presence, a companion she hadn't known she was missing. After breakfast, she found herself drawn, not to her usual observation post in the dome, but to the small, dust-laden library section of the stargazer's home. Shelves upon shelves of ancient scrolls, leather-bound tomes, and carefully pressed herbariums lined the walls, each holding centuries of observations, prophecies, and forgotten lore. Her fingers, guided by an instinct she couldn't name, brushed over spines until they settled on a heavy vellum-bound book titled The Annals of Celestial Whispers. It was a book rarely opened, its language archaic, its content often dismissed as poetic allegory rather than factual record. With a deep breath, Elara carried it to the polished wooden table by the window, where the morning light illuminated its faded script. She didn't know what she was looking for, but the starseed within her pulsed with a gentle affirmation. She turned pages, her eyes scanning lines of intricate calligraphy, until a particular passage seemed to leap out at her, glowing faintly in her peripheral vision. And when the stars themselves falter, and the weave of the aether grows thin, then shall the lumen be stirred from its slumber. Not in the heavens shall it descend, but from the heart of the deepest darkness shall it rise, seeking a vessel pure of spirit and keen of sight. A stargazer shall be its keeper, a bridge between the celestial and the mortal, to mend the fractured song of the spheres. Elara's breath caught. Kantevan Tente. That was the word, the ancient name for the entity that had visited her, seeking a vessel pure of spirit and keen of sight. It had described her, a quiet observer of the cosmos, someone who saw beyond the immediate. Tui meant the fractured song of the spheres. What did that mean? A fractured song implied disharmony, something broken that needed repair. The images the lumen had shown her, the fading light, the encroaching shadow, suddenly coalesced into a clearer, more urgent picture. For the rest of the day, Elara moved in a haze of revelation. She read more, cross-referencing passages, uncovering fragments of a forgotten history. The stargazers, she learned, were not merely observers. They were once guardians, attuned to the subtle energies that bound the world to the cosmos. Their purpose had dwindled over the millennia, their knowledge becoming more academic than active, their role shifting from menders to chroniclers. But now, the lumen had chosen her, signaling a return to the ancient ways. That evening, as the first stars pricked through the twilight sky, Elara sat once more in the observation dome, but this time, her gaze was not just outward. It was inward too, searching for the connection. She closed her eyes, focusing on the warmth in her chest. Slowly, tentatively, she reached out with her mind, a silent question forming. Lumen, what must I do? Ki. Kanin. The response was not a whisper this time, but a gentle surge of images, clearer and more direct than before. She saw a familiar landscape, the rolling hills of Starfall Vale, but with a subtle creeping gray spreading from the northern peaks. The vibrant emerald green of the meadows seemed duller, the sturdy oaks slightly less robust. Then the images shifted, focusing on a single, unmistakable symbol, a spiral, like a galaxy unfurling, carved into what looked like ancient, moss-covered stone. It was a symbol she had seen in the annals of celestial whispers and identified as the mark of the Elder Weavers, a lost order rumored to have woven magic directly from starlight. The feeling that accompanied these visions was one of profound concern, a deep yearning for balance restored. The fractured song of the spheres, it was the song of the world itself, growing dissonant. The creeping gray was a blight, a gradual fading of life and magic, originating from the north. And the mark of the Elder Weavers was a clue, perhaps even a key. Elara opened her eyes, her heart thrumming with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The stars above her seemed to twinkle with a newfound urgency. She understood now. This wasn't merely a secret to keep, it was a quest, a sacred duty. The quiet certainty had deepened into an unwavering resolve. She, Elara, the stargazer, was being called to mend the world. The next few days were a blur of quiet preparation. She didn't dare speak of the lumen to anyone, not even her kindest elder Lysandra, who often shared stories of the old days. How could she explain something so utterly incredible, so far beyond the realm of current stargazer knowledge? They would think her feverish, or perhaps sadly, that her solitude had finally led her astray. No, this was her burden, and her privilege, alone. Under the guise of researching ancient astronomical charts, Elara meticulously pored over maps of the region, comparing them to the starseed's visions. The northern peaks were known as the Whisperwind Mountains, a range rarely traversed, rumored to hold forgotten valleys and treacherous paths. Somewhere within those peaks, the mark of the Elder Weavers lay hidden, and perhaps the source of the creeping blight. She packed a small satchel, dried fruit, nuts, a waterskin, a tinderbox, and a coil of sturdy rope. She included her stargazer's compass, a finely crafted instrument that pointed not just north, but to the brightest star in the current night sky, and a small, smooth riverstone, a personal talisman from her childhood. She also tucked away a small, thin volume of The Annals of Celestial Whispers, its pages now marked with her own careful annotations. One evening, as the twin moons of Eridor and Lunara cast long silver shadows across the vale, Elara left a note for Lysandra. It was brief, simply stating she was embarking on a journey of discovery, following a forgotten path of starlight, and would return when her purpose was clear. She knew it would cause concern, but she couldn't lie, and she couldn't explain. Stepping out of the familiar warmth of the stargazer's home, Elara felt the cool night air prickle her skin. The silence of the vale was profound, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. This was her home, the only one she had ever known. A haven of quiet contemplation and celestial study. Leaving it felt like severing a root, painful but necessary for new growth. As she walked, the lumen within her pulsed, a steady guiding beat. It didn't illuminate the path directly, but it radiated a sense of direction, a subtle pull towards the north, towards the looming shadows of the Whisperwind Mountains. The path was faint, overgrown in places, clearly unused for centuries. It followed ancient deer trails, winding through groves of whispering silverleaf trees, and across babbling brooks whose waters sparkled under the moonlight. The first night was an exercise in pure sensory immersion. The scent of pine and damp earth filled her nostrils. The symphony of the night, crickets chirping, unseen creatures rustling in the undergrowth, was a lullaby. She found a sheltered alcove beneath an ancient gnarled oak, its branches reaching like benevolent arms towards the sky. Building a small smokeless fire, she ate her simple meal, the warmth of the lumen a constant companion against the chill. She felt no fear, only a quiet determination and a profound sense of purpose. The next morning the landscape began to change. The gentle slopes of Starfall Vale gave way to steeper inclines, the trees growing denser, their branches intertwined overhead, dappling the path with shifting patterns of light and shadow. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of damp moss and distant snow. Elara, though small in stature, possessed a surprising endurance, honed by years of traversing the Vale's hills to reach her observation posts. As she ascended, the creeping gray she had seen in her visions began to manifest subtly in the real world. Patches of moss on rocks were a duller shade of green, some even tinged with an ash-like pallor. The leaves of some saplings appeared brittle, their edges curled and brown, even though it was still deep summer. It was a slow, insidious decay, not a sudden blight, making it all the more unsettling. The lumen within her pulsed with a more insistent rhythm, confirming her path was true and her purpose urgent. Days turned into a week. Ilara traversed narrow mountain passes, scaled steep, rocky ascents, and navigated through dense, silent forests where sunlight struggled to penetrate. The Whisperwind Mountains lived up to their name. The wind here was a constant, mournful companion, sighing through the peaks and valleys, carrying with it the faint, metallic scent of iron and stone. The lumen was her compass, her guide, and her silent protector. When she strayed from the correct path, a subtle shift in its warmth, a gentle thrumming would alert her. When she grew weary, its pervasive warmth seemed to lend strength to her limbs. It was more than just a presence. It was a symbiotic partner in her journey. One afternoon, after a particularly arduous climb up a scree slope, Ilara found herself at the edge of a plateau. Before her stretched a vista, unlike anything she had ever seen. A deep valley lay nestled between towering peaks, its floor a riot of color, vibrant wildflowers blooming in defiance of the encroaching grayness that still clung to the higher slopes. In the center of the valley, partially obscured by a stand of ancient towering fir trees, she saw it. A colossal stone structure, weathered by millennia, its purpose unclear but undeniably ancient. And etched into its side, almost swallowed by moss and lichen, was the spiraling mark of the Elder Weavers. It was larger than she had imagined, almost monumental, radiating a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer even from this distance. A wave of profound exhaustion washed over Ilara, but it was quickly replaced by a surge of exhilaration. She had found it. The first clue. The first step on the path to mending the fractured song. Carefully, Ilara began her descent into the valley, her heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and a healthy dose of awe. As she drew closer to the structure, she noticed intricate carvings covering its surface, depicting celestial bodies, constellations she recognized from her stargazer charts, and figures adorned with flowing robes and staffs that seemed to hum with starlight. These were the Elder Weavers, she realized, bringing the cosmic dance to Earth. The air around the structure was different, too. It felt thick, almost resonant, as if filled with a silent, ancient music. The lumen within her vibrated with an intensity she hadn't felt since its initial manifestation, a bright, joyful thrumming. It was a clear affirmation. She was exactly where she needed to be. The mark of the Elder Weavers, now directly before her, was not just a carving. It was a portal, or perhaps a focal point. The spiral seemed to pulse with a faint internal light, drawing her gaze inward. As she reached out a tentative hand, a burst of warmth erupted from her chest, the lumen flaring brightly, not just within her, but extending outwards, a soft golden aura surrounding her fingers. As her hand made contact with the cold stone, the spiral flared, bathing the valley in a soft, ethereal light. The moss and lichen on the stone seemed to recede, revealing the true depth of the carving, its lines clean and sharp, as if newly etched. A low, resonant hum filled the air, vibrating through the very ground beneath her feet. Then the images came again, not fleeting glimpses this time, but a continuous flow, like stepping into a waking dream. She saw the Elder Weavers not as distant figures in texts, but as living, breathing beings. They stood around similar spiral marks, their hands raised, weaving intricate patterns of light in the air, drawing energy from the stars themselves, channeling it into the earth, nurturing the land, healing the sick, communicating with the celestial spheres. Their magic was pure, harmonious, a vibrant song. But then, the vision shifted. The sky grew dim, the stars flickered. A creeping shadow, not the subtle gray of the blight, but a tangible, inky darkness, began to spread from the very edges of the world. It devoured starlight, silenced the songs of the weavers, and turned their vibrant magic into something twisted and inert. The weavers fought, weaving desperate patterns of light, but the darkness was too vast, too powerful. One by one, their lights faded, their forms dissolving into dust. The land withered, the vibrant colors draining away, replaced by the ash-like pallor she had witnessed. The final image was of a single weaver, an old woman with eyes as deep as the cosmos, clutching a small glowing orb, the lumen, Elara realized. With a final desperate surge of power, she compressed the orb, shrinking it, making it invisible, and sent it forth, a tiny spark against an overwhelming darkness, a seed of hope launched into the unknown. The message was clear. The lumen was in that spark, preserved through ages, waiting for the right moment, for the right vessel, to rekindle the lost light. Elara gasped, pulling her hand away from the stone, the images receding like a tide. The valley was silent once more, the spiral mark still glowing softly, the lumen within her still thrumming with intense energy. The ancient structure was not just a monument, it was a memory keeper, a record of a catastrophe, a testament to a forgotten age of magic and its tragic end. The creeping blight, the fractured song, the fading stars, it was all connected. A great darkness had once fallen, silencing the elder weavers and their celestial magic, leaving the world vulnerable to a slow, insidious decay. The lumen had been sent forth to find a new weaver, a new conduit, to remember what was lost, and to fight the lingering shadow. Elara looked up at the sky, the true stars just beginning to emerge in the twilight. The air here in this forgotten valley felt charged, alive with the echoes of ancient magic. She was no longer just following a path. She was standing at the threshold of a forgotten history, a destiny greater than she could have ever imagined. The spiral mark pulsed, seemingly inviting her deeper. What lay beyond this ancient monument? What more could it reveal? The adventure had truly just begun. The spiral mark pulsed, seemingly inviting her deeper. What lay beyond this ancient monument? What more could it reveal? The adventure had truly just begun. A shiver, not of cold but of profound anticipation, traced its way down Elara's spine. The air around the monolith thickened, humming with a low, resonant frequency that vibrated in her very bones. The spiral mark on her palm intensified its glow, mirroring the intricate carvings on the stone. It felt like a key, a connection. Drawn by an instinct she couldn't name, Elara reached out, her fingers trembling slightly as they brushed against the cool, ancient stone. The moment her skin met the spiral carving, the world shifted. The twilight sky above seemed to dim further, drawing all available light into the monument itself. A soft, deep thrum emanated from within the stone, growing steadily louder until it filled the valley, a sound both ancient and alive. The carvings on the monolith, which moments ago had seemed merely decorative, now pulsed with a soft inner luminescence, like veins of captured starlight. Lines of light traced themselves across the rough surface, flowing towards the central spiral beneath Elara's hand, which now blazed with a gentle, emerald green light. The ground beneath her feet began to tremble, a gentle vibration at first, then a slow, deliberate shifting. The base of the monument, which had seemed rooted to the earth for millennia, began to separate. A segment of the stone, wider than Elara was tall, slowly, majestically, receded into itself, like a vast stone door swinging inward without a sound. It revealed not darkness, but a passage bathed in a warm, ethereal glow. The light wasn't harsh or artificial. It was soft, diffuse, as if woven from moonlight and captured dreams. A wave of air, cool and fragrant with the scent of damp earth, and something indescribably sweet, wafted from the newly revealed entrance. Elara peered into the opening. The passage beyond was not a crude tunnel but a smoothly carved corridor, its walls shimmering with faint iridescent mosses that pulsed with their own inner light. The floor sloped gently downwards, paved with flagstones that seemed to absorb and reflect the soft illumination, guiding the way. Tiny, delicate crystalline formations sparkled from the ceiling, catching the light and scattering it into a myriad of faint dancing colors. Hesitantly, Elara took a step forward, then another. The monumental stone door slid back into place behind her with a soft final sigh, sealing her within the earth. There was no fear, only an overwhelming sense of wonder and belonging. The air grew warmer, imbued with a palpable energy that made her feel more alive, more connected than ever before. Her spiral mark continued to glow, its warmth spreading through her arm, a comforting beacon in this mysterious place. The passage opened into a vast cavernous space, a hidden world beneath the surface. Elara gasped, her voice lost in the sheer beauty of it. This was not a cave, but a ye grove, a luminous, subterranean sanctuary. Towering trees, unlike any she had ever seen, rose towards the impossibly high ceiling, their bark shimmering with a soft silvery luminescence. Their leaves, a deep emerald green, glowed from within, casting dappled patterns of light across the forest floor. The air was thick, with the scent of sweet blossoms and damp earth, a fragrance so rich it felt almost tangible. Instead of sunlight, the grove was illuminated by 1,000 tiny lights. Bioluminescent fungi clustered at the base of trees, casting a gentle, purple glow. Delicate, translucent flowers, like living crystals, unfurled petals that pulsed with soft blues and golds. And everywhere, swirling through the air like living motes of dust, were tiny, luminous creatures, miniature spheres of light that danced and twinkled, occasionally coalescing into fleeting, shimmering shapes before dissolving again. They were the grove's own starlight, born of its magic. A narrow, winding path, paved with smooth, glowing pebbles, led deeper into the grove. A gentle murmur of flowing water reached her ears, beckoning her onward. As Elara walked, she noticed that the plants seemed to lean towards her, their inner light intensifying slightly as she passed. The tiny light creatures swirled closer, circling her head like a crown of living stars, their soft glow illuminating her path. It was as if the very grove itself welcomed her, recognized her. Following the path, she came to a clearing dominated by an enormous ancient tree. Its trunk was wider than a small cottage, its silvery bark gnarled and textured like a map of forgotten ages. Its branches spread outwards, supporting a canopy of glowing leaves that seemed to hold up the very cavern's ceiling. At its base, nestled amongst roots as thick as a man's body, was a pool of water, so clear and still that it reflected the glowing canopy above like a perfect inverted sky. The water itself pulsed with a soft golden light, emanating a gentle warmth. As Elara approached the pool, a ripple disturbed its surface not from a stone, but from something rising within. A figure began to coalesce from the golden light, slowly, gracefully. It was tall and slender, with skin the color of polished jade and hair like spun moonlight. Its eyes, deep pools of emerald, held an ancient, serene wisdom. Delicate, translucent wings, like those of a dragonfly, shimmered with every color of the grove's light, unfurling softly behind its back. This was no ordinary creature. It was a spirit, a being woven from the very essence of this magical place. "Welcome, child of the spiral," a voice resonated not with sound alone, but with a gentle hum that vibrated through Elara's very being. It was a voice like wind chimes and rustling leaves, ancient and comforting. "We have awaited your coming." Elara, though startled, felt no fear. This being exuded an aura of profound peace and power. Who are you?" she managed, her own voice sounding small and fragile in comparison. The spirit smiled, a subtle shift in its features that seemed to light up the entire clearing. "I am Lyra, a voice of the Whispering Grove. I am one of its many guardians, its memory, its song. And you, Elara, carry a mark we have not seen in many, many ages." Lyra gestured to Elara's hand, where the spiral mark still pulsed with a soft, steady glow. "The spiral mark," Elara murmured, looking at her palm. "What is it? What does it mean?" Lyra stepped fully out of the pool, her feet seemingly not touching the ground, but hovering just above the luminous pebbles. "It is a seed, little one. A seed of ancient magic, dormant for generations, now awakening within you. It is the mark of the Hearth Keepers, those chosen to tend to the world's deep magic, to listen to its heart, and to guide its flow." "Hearth Keepers," Elara repeated, the words feeling weighty and significant. I don't understand. I'm just Elara. I live in a quiet village. I don't have magic." Lyra's emerald eyes twinkled with amusement. "Oh, but you do, Elara. That mark is proof. The magic slumbers, yes, but it is there, deep within you, awaiting your touch, your understanding. The world has grown quiet, its ancient song muffled by the rush of everyday life. But the heart of the world still beats, and sometimes it calls out for those who can truly hear." Lyra drifted closer, her presence radiating a gentle warmth that soothed Elara's racing heart. "This grove, the Whispering Grove, is one of the ancient places, a sanctuary, a reservoir of pure magic, hidden from the outside world. It is where the Hearth Keepers of old would come to learn, to listen, to connect with the deep currents of the land." Lyra gestured to the glowing pool at the base of the ancient tree. "This is the Heart Pool. It is a mirror to the world's spirit, and a conduit for its energy. The heart of the world? Elara asked, her mind struggling to grasp the enormity of what Lyra was saying. Every living thing, every mountain, river and sky, is connected by a vast intricate web of magic, Lyra explained patiently. And at the very center of this web lies the heart of the world, a source of incredible power and life. It is not a single place, but a living energy that pulses through the land. The Hearth Keepers were those who could feel this pulse, who could understand its rhythm, and who could help to maintain the balance. Lyra turned and gazed at the ancient tree, its leaves shimmering. You see this tree, Elara? It is called the Elderwood. It has stood here for millennia, drawing sustenance from the heart pool. Its roots intertwined with the very essence of the grove. It remembers. It holds the echoes of all who have come before, all who have touched this magic. Can I learn to hear it too? Elara asked, a spark of hope igniting within her. To feel the magic? You already have, child, Lyra replied, her voice soft but firm. It is why you found this place. It is why the spiral mark chose you. But learning to understand and I guide it, that is a journey. It begins with listening. Lyra led Elara to the edge of the heart pool. The golden light emanating from it was warm and inviting. Place your hand in the water, Elara. Let your mark touch its surface. Empty your mind, and listen not with your ears but with your heart, with your very soul. Elara hesitated for a moment, then taking a deep breath, she extended her hand. As her glowing spiral mark touched the shimmering surface of the heart pool, a wave of energy, warm and vibrant, surged through her arm and spread throughout her entire body. It was not overwhelming but deeply comforting, like being embraced by sunlight. The golden light of the pool pulsed in harmony with her mark. Images, soft and fleeting, began to drift through her mind. Not clear pictures, but impressions, feelings. She felt the slow, steady growth of roots deep within the earth, drawing up life. She felt the gentle rush of a hidden spring, bubbling upwards. She felt the silent unfurling of a blossom towards an unseen sun. It was a symphony of life, a quiet song of growth and renewal, the heartbeat of the grove itself. Then, the impressions broadened. She felt the vastness of the sky, the distant rumble of mountains, the shimmering expanse of a great ocean. She felt the quiet slumber of a forest in winter, the vibrant awakening of spring. It was the world, alive, breathing, singing its ancient song. And she, Elara, was connected to it, a single thread in its magnificent tapestry. A tear, warm and unexpected, traced a path down her cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness but of profound understanding and awe. The world was so much more than she had ever known. As the vision faded, Elara slowly withdrew her hand from the pool. Her spiral mark on her palm was now pulsing with a steady, gentle rhythm, mirroring the beat she had felt. She looked at Lyra, her eyes wide with wonder. I felt it. I felt the world. Lyra nodded, her own emerald eyes shining with approval. That, little one, is the first step. To feel, to listen. The Hearth Keepers were not masters of flashy spells, but guardians of balance, conduits of life. They ensured the rivers flowed, the seasons turned, and the land remained vibrant. And they learned to channel that life energy, to mend, to grow, to protect. Can I learn to do that? Elara asked, a new determination hardening her gaze. You have the potential, Lyra confirmed. But this grove is only one aspect of the ancient magic. Its energy is of growth and renewal, of life-giving waters. There are other such places, other sanctuaries, each attuned to a different facet of the world's heart. To truly understand your mark, to awaken its full power, you must seek them out. Other places? Where are they? Elara asked, her gaze sweeping across the luminous trees. Lyra smiled enigmatically. The heart of the world is vast, and its arteries run deep. One path leads to the whispering peaks, where the magic of the winds and the clarity of thought reside. Another leads to the sunken caves, where the earth's ancient fire still burns. And another to the shimmering sands, where illusions and true sight intertwine. It sounds like a long journey, Elara mused, a hint of trepidation in her voice, but excitement too. Indeed, Lyra affirmed. And one you must undertake, Elara, for the world has been out of balance for too long. The deep magic has receded, its song grown faint. Shadows creep where light once shone, and the land itself hungers for the touch of a true hearthkeeper. Elara thought of the forgotten valley, the encroaching shadows she had felt, the sense of something ancient and powerful stirring. What kind of shadows? Lyra's expression grew serious, a rare flicker of concern in her ancient eyes. A weariness, a slow draining of life. The world remembers the hearthkeepers, Elara, and it calls to you to help restore what has been lost. The true nature of these shadows is not for me to reveal fully, not yet. You must discover it yourself as you grow in understanding. But know this, the ancient magic, when fully awakened, holds the power to mend, to protect, and to ward off the encroaching stillness. But how do I find these places, and how do I learn to use this magic? Elara asked, feeling the weight of the task. Lyra reached out a slender hand, and a small, delicate bloom, pure white with petals that glowed with a soft internal warmth, appeared in her palm. This is a moon petal. It draws its light from the deep magic of the grove. Carry it with you. Its light will not only sustain you in dark places, but it will also hum softly when you are close to another place of ancient power, guiding your way. She placed the moon petal gently into Elara's hand. The flower felt warm against her skin, its light casting intricate patterns on her palm. It glowed in harmony with her spiral mark. As for learning, Lyra continued, you have taken the first step today. With each sanctuary you find, with each aspect of the heart of the world you connect with, more will be revealed. Your mark will guide you, and your heart will teach you. Listen to the wind, speak to the trees, feel the pulse of the earth. The world itself will be your teacher, once you learn to truly listen. Lyra paused, her gaze fixed on Elara with an intensity that held both hope and a touch of melancholy. The path ahead will not always be clear, Elara. You will face challenges, and you will doubt yourself. But remember this, the ancient magic flows within you. You are part of something greater than you can yet imagine. Trust your instincts, trust the whispers of the world, and trust the spiral mark that chose you. Elara clutched the moon petal, its gentle warmth a tangible comfort. She looked around the whispering grove, at the shimmering trees, the dancing lights, the serene Lyra. This hidden world, so far removed from her quiet village life, was now her starting point. She was no longer just a girl, she was a hearthkeeper, tasked with a sacred ancient duty. I will, Elara said, her voice firm, imbued with a newfound resolve. I will listen, I will learn, I will find these places. Lyra smiled, a radiant, hopeful smile that seemed to fill the entire grove with renewed light. Then your journey, little hearthkeeper, truly begins. The monument that brought you here will also guide you back to the surface. But remember, the way out is only the start of your path. The world awaits your touch. Elara felt the gentle push of Lyra's magic, a soft urging towards the passage she had entered through. She turned, taking one last look at the breathtaking beauty of the whispering grove, etching every detail into her memory. The scent of sweet blossoms, the gentle hum of magic, the shimmering light, these would be her companions, her first lessons. As she re-entered the passage, the glowing mosses and crystalline formations seemed to pulse brighter, bidding her farewell. She felt a profound change within her, a quiet strength, a connection to something ancient and vast. The moon petal in her hand pulsed softly, a tiny beacon of hope. The valley above, with its fading twilight, now seemed like a different place, imbued with new meaning, new possibilities. The adventure had only just begun, and Elara, the nascent hearthkeeper, was ready for whatever wonders and challenges lay ahead. The valley above, with its fading twilight, now seemed like a different place, imbued with new meaning, new possibilities. The adventure had only just begun, and Elara, the nascent hearthkeeper, was ready for whatever wonders and challenges lay ahead. With a deep breath that tasted of ancient earth and nascent starlight, Elara ascended the winding path, the moon petal glowing faintly in her palm. Its light, though soft, was enough to illuminate her way through the deepening dusk. As she neared the edge of the moon petal valley, she noticed a subtle shift in the air. The oppressive chill that had driven her into the depths was still present, but it felt less absolute. Perhaps it was the moon petal, or perhaps the change within her was already beginning to ripple outwards. She emerged into the twilight, the first stars pricking the indigo canvas of the sky. The familiar silhouette of her village, Hearthglen, nestled against the foothills, seemed to shimmer under an ethereal, almost mournful, light. A thin, crystalline frost now coated the branches of the ancient sentinel trees that guarded the village entrance, even though it was late spring. The usual evening sounds, the gentle murmur of conversations, the distant laughter of children, the warm glow of hearth fires were muted, replaced by an unsettling hush and the faint melancholic whisper of the cold wind. Elara quickened her pace, her heart aching with a mixture of apprehension and fierce determination. She clutched the moon petal tighter, feeling its warm thrum against her skin, a counterpoint to the encroaching chill. As she entered Hearthglen, the few villagers still outside moved with a sluggishness that spoke of weariness, their faces etched with concern. Their breath plumed like smoke in the unnaturally cold air. Old Master Eldrin, the village elder whose eyes held the wisdom of countless seasons, was standing by the communal hearth, poking despondently at the struggling flames. The fire, usually a roaring heart of warmth and light, was now a pale, sputtering thing, barely casting a glow beyond its stone circle. As Elara approached, her steps almost silent, Eldrin looked up, his gaze fixing not on her face, but on the luminous bloom in her hand. His eyes, usually clouded with age, widened, and a flicker of something akin to awe, then hope, ignited within them. Elara, you have returned. And you carry the moon petal. His voice was a raspy whisper, filled with a fragile wonder. Elara nodded, holding the flower out. It led me, Master Eldrin, deep beneath the roots of the world. I don't fully understand it yet, but I feel different. Eldrin reached out a trembling hand, not to touch the moon petal, but to gently cup her other hand. The ancient prophecies spoke of a nascent hearthkeeper, one who would brave the chill and awaken the heart of warmth when the shadow of the Everfrost threatened to claim our world. The moon petal is but a key, child. The true hearth is within you. He looked at the struggling fire, then back at Elara, a profound sorrow mixing with the hope in his gaze. The chill heart shadow grows bolder, Elara. It is not merely cold, but a profound emptiness that seeks to extinguish all light, all joy, all warmth. Our hearths falter, our crops wither, and even the spirits of our people dim. As if to punctuate his words, a gust of wind swept through the village, carrying with it a biting cold that seemed to sink into the very bones. The struggling communal fire flickered violently, threatening to die altogether. A collective gasp rose from the few villagers gathered nearby. Fear, raw and potent, began to prickle Elara's skin. No! Elara cried, a sudden surge of something fierce and protective rising within her. Without thinking, she instinctively reached out her free hand towards the dying embers. A warmth, starting as a faint glow in her palm, pulsed outwards. The moon petal in her other hand brightened in response, its soft light mingling with the nascent heat. A gasp, this time of wonder, escaped the villagers. The embers, touched by Elara's outstretched hand and the moon petal's light, began to dance with renewed vigor. A tiny, steady flame ignited, then another, spreading slowly but surely. The air around the hearth, though still cold, felt less oppressive. The faint, sweet scent of wood smoke, so long absent, began to drift on the breeze. Elara felt a profound exhaustion wash over her, as if she had poured a part of her very essence into the flames. But the warmth, the light, the hopeful murmurs of the villagers, it was a feeling unlike any she had ever known. It was exhilarating. "You have awakened, Elara," Eldrin whispered, his eyes shining with tears. "But this is just the beginning. The chill heart shadow is ancient and powerful. To truly banish it, you must understand the deepest magic of the Hearthkeepers. You must find the Hearthstone of Eldoria, hidden in the Whispering Peaks, where the first Hearthkeepers forged their pact with the living world." The Whispering Peaks. Elara knew the tales. A treacherous range of mountains, perpetually shrouded in mist and echoing with the voices of forgotten spirits. It was a journey even the most seasoned hunters avoided. Yet, the thought of retreating, of letting the Chillheart shadow consume her home, was unbearable. "I will go," Elara declared, her voice firm, resonating with a newfound authority that surprised even herself. "But, what is the Hearthstone, and how will it help?" Eldrin sighed, a deep, weary sound. "The Hearthstone is not merely a stone, child. It is the solidified essence of the first Hearthkeeper's heart, a conduit to the living warmth of the world itself. It amplifies, it protects, it connects. But it has been dormant for centuries, awaiting the touch of a true keeper. You will need guidance. He gestured towards the dark forest bordering the peaks. Seek out the Willow Whisperer, deep within the ancient grove of the moonlit willows. She is a spirit of the forest, ancient and wise, and she guards the knowledge of the first paths to the peaks. She will test you, but if you prove worthy, she will show you the way. The next morning, fortified by a warm meal, thanks to Elara's efforts at the hearth, and the renewed if fragile hope of her village, Elara set off. The moon petal, now tucked securely into a pouch at her waist, pulsed with a steady, comforting rhythm. Her journey took her through valleys still touched by the Chillheart Shadow's icy breath, where flowers drooped like forgotten dreams, and the ground crunched underfoot with a delicate rhyme. But wherever Elara walked, a faint, almost imperceptible warmth seemed to follow, a tiny rebellion against the pervasive cold. She found the moonlit willows by following the faint, silvery glow that shimmered even in daylight, a testament to their ancient magic. The grove was a breathtaking sight. Colossal willow trees, their branches weeping curtains of luminous silvery leaves that rustled with an ethereal whisper, like hushed secrets. The air within the grove was warmer, softer, imbued with a gentle, living energy. As Elara stepped beneath the boughs, the whispers intensified, surrounding her. A chorus of unintelligible voices. A figure began to coalesce from the shimmering leaves and mist at the heart of the grove. It was tall and slender, with skin like ancient bark, hair like woven moss, and eyes that glowed with the soft green light of a forest floor after rain. This was the Willow Whisperer. You carry the light of the moon petal, child of Hearthglen. The whisperer's voice was a soft rustling melody, like leaves stirred by a gentle breeze, and the nascent flame of a hearth keeper. But the path to the hearthstone is perilous, not merely for your body, but for your spirit. What do you seek to protect so fiercely that you would brave the forgotten ways? My home, my people, Elara replied, her voice steady despite a tremor in her heart. The warmth, the joy, the life that the Chillheart Shadow seeks to extinguish, I seek to rekindle it, to banish the cold. The Willow Whisperer's gaze, ancient and piercing, seemed to delve into the very core of Elara's being. The Chillheart Shadow is not merely an enemy to be fought, young keeper. It is a consequence, a manifestation of the world's deep sorrow, of the forgotten and the unloved. To banish it, you must not simply bring warmth but understanding. You must mend, not merely break. Elara pondered her words. How can I understand sorrow, when all I wish to bring is joy? By embracing all aspects of the world, just as a hearth embraces both light and shadow, warmth and cool embers, the Whisperer replied. To reach the hearthstone you must traverse 3 trials, the trial of empathy, the trial of resilience, and the trial of connection. Pass them, and the path to the peaks will reveal itself. The first trial began immediately. The Willow Whisperer gestured towards a gnarled ancient tree, its branches withered and bare, even amidst the verdant grove. This is the Heartwood Elder. It has witnessed countless ages, but its spirit is heavy with the sorrow of a forgotten pact, a broken promise between the first people and the forest. Its sadness feeds the encroaching cold. Touch it, Elara, listen to its silent lament, and offer it comfort. Hesitantly, Elara approached the ancient tree. As her hand brushed against its rough bark, a wave of profound melancholy washed over her. She felt the weight of forgotten oaths, the sting of neglect, the slow, agonizing decay of hope. Tears welled in her eyes, not her own sorrow, but the trees. The moon petal pulsed furiously in her pouch, as if urging her on. Drawing upon the wellspring of empathy that had always been a quiet part of her nature, Elara closed her eyes. She focused not on fighting the sadness, but on understanding it. She poured her own nascent warmth, not as a force to banish, but as a gentle embrace. She imagined her own hands full of love and care, tending to a neglected fire, coaxing it back to life. She hummed a soft, comforting lullaby, one her mother used to sing to her when she was afraid. Slowly, miraculously, a faint green luminescence began to spread beneath the bark of the Heartwood Elder. A tiny new bud, no bigger than her thumbnail, unfurled on a long dormant branch. The pervasive sadness began to recede, replaced by a fragile sense of peace. The Willow Whisperer nodded, a faint smile gracing her lips. Empathy. You have felt the world's pain and offered solace. The first trial is complete. The second trial led Ilara to a barren windswept ridge just beyond the grove, where jagged rocks clawed at the sky. The trial of resilience, the whisperer announced. Here, the chill heart shadow's touch is strongest, its cold winds relentless. You must cross this ridge and retrieve a shard of pure starlight from the highest peak, untouched by the shadow. The journey will test your spirit, your body, and your will to endure. As Ilara began to climb, the wind howled around her, carrying tiny, sharp crystals of ice that stung her exposed skin. The cold was absolute, a relentless assault that sought to drain her warmth, to numb her will. Her breath plumed heavily and her muscles ached. Doubt, an insidious serpent, began to whisper in her mind. You are small, Ilara. The cold is vast. You cannot fight it. Give up. Rest. One day. But each time the doubt threatened to overwhelm her, Ilara thought of Hearthglen, of the sputtering fire, of the hope in Eldrin's eyes. She thought of the moon petal's steady thrum against her skin, a constant reminder of the light she carried. She focused on her breathing, on the steady rhythm of her heart, on the warmth she had felt when she rekindled the hearth. She was not merely enduring the cold, she was defying it. With each step, she imagined herself as a tiny ember, glowing ever brighter in the face of the storm, refusing to be extinguished. She sang old Hearthglen songs, quiet melodies of warmth and home, letting the sound of her own voice be a beacon in the storm. Hours later, bruised and exhausted but utterly unbowed, she reached the highest peak. There, nestled within a small sheltered crevice, was a shard of crystal, shimmering with an inner light, a captured piece of pure starlight. She carefully retrieved it, feeling its cool, pure energy flow into her weary fingers. Returning to the Willow Whisperer, Ilara presented the shard, her body trembling with exertion, but her eyes alight with fierce pride. I endured, she whispered, a triumphant smile gracing her lips. Indeed, the Whisperer said, her eyes gleaming. Resilience. You have faced despair and found strength within. Now, for the final trial, the trial of connection. The Whisperer led her to a hidden spring, where crystalline waters bubbled up from the earth. The chill heart shadow thrives on isolation, on the belief that one is alone against the cold. Here, you must connect not just with your own power, but with the interconnected warmth of all living things. Place the moon petal and the starlight shard into the spring. Then reach out, Ilara. Feel the pulse of the world, the countless tiny hearths that burn, in every living creature, every plant, every drop of water. Ilara placed the moon petal and the starlight shard into the bubbling spring. They settled at the bottom, glowing with a soft ethereal light that illuminated the clear water. She knelt, closed her eyes, and extended her hands, palms open, towards the spring. She took a deep breath, letting her mind expand beyond herself. At first, she felt nothing but the cool water and the gentle gurgle of the spring. But she persisted, remembering the warmth she had felt tending the village hearth, the empathy for the Heartwood elder, the resilience within herself. She reached deeper, beyond her own senses, beyond her own skin. Then, slowly, it began. A faint hum like countless tiny heartbeats resonated through the earth beneath her hands. She felt the deep, steady pulse of the ancient trees in the grove, their lifeblood flowing. She felt the quick, fluttering warmth of birds nestled in their branches, the slow, rhythmic warmth of creatures burrowing beneath the soil. She felt the vibrant, living energy within the very stones and soil, the hidden network of roots and mycelium connecting everything. And within that vast, intricate tapestry of life, she felt countless tiny sparks of warmth, of life, of hope. She gathered them, not with force but with love, drawing them gently towards her, letting them mingle and swirl, strengthening each other. The moon petal and the starlight shard in the spring pulsed brighter, reflecting the surging energy. A deep, profound warmth began to bloom in Ilara's chest, expanding outwards, enveloping her in a cocoon of vibrant, living heat. It was not just her warmth, it was the warmth of everything. It was boundless. It was the true heart of the hearth, not a stone, but the very essence of interconnected life. When she opened her eyes, the world seemed to glow with an inner luminescence. The Whisperer smiled, a profound, almost joyful expression on her ancient face. You have found it, Ilara, The hearthstone of Eldoria is not a physical object in the peaks. It is this connection. It is the understanding that the greatest warmth comes not from a single fire, but from the countless fires burning together. You are the conduit, the keeper of that connection. The willow whisperer then extended her hand, and from her palm, a shimmering, moss-covered staff appeared, topped with a glowing, verdant crystal. This staff will guide your path to the true source of the chill heart shadow. It rests within the highest cavern of the Whispering Peaks, where it was born from a forgotten sorrow. Go, Elara, bring the warmth of connection to the heart of the cold. Armed with her newfound understanding, the moon petal now returned to her pouch, glowing with a more confident light, the starlight shard, carefully secured, and the Whisperer's staff. Elara set off for the Whispering Peaks. The journey was still arduous, the cold still biting, but now Elara felt it differently. She was not just enduring, she was an active force, a beacon of warmth moving through the frigid landscape. The staff hummed in her hand, its verdant crystal glowing, pointing the way. As she ascended the highest slopes, the landscape grew eerier. The air hummed with a desolate silence, broken only by the mournful shriek of the wind. Before her, the mountain opened into a vast gaping maw, the entrance to the highest cavern. A palpable wave of despair emanated from within, a cold so profound it felt like a physical weight on her soul. Elara gripped the staff tightly, its warmth spreading through her arm, reminding her of the countless connections she now carried. She stepped inside. The cavern was immense, its ceiling lost in shadow, its floor a treacherous expanse of jagged ice and glittering hoarfrost. In the very center, a towering crystalline spire of ice pierced the cavern ceiling, pulsating with a sickly blue-black light. This was it. The heart of the chill heart shadow. Nonia. As Elara approached, the air grew even colder, the despair so thick it felt suffocating. Shapes began to stir within the shadows, not creatures of malice, but ephemeral forms, wisps of forgotten memories, echoes of broken promises, manifestations of deep, unspoken sadness. They swirled around the spire, feeding its chilling power. These were the sorrows the willow whisperer had spoken of. Suddenly a voice, ancient and mournful, echoed through the cavern, seeming to come from the spire itself. Why do you come, child of warmth? To fight? To banish? You cannot banish me. I am the silence that follows joy. The emptiness after loss. The peace of eternal slumber. All things must end in cold. The voice was not angry, but profoundly, utterly weary. Elara paused, remembering the whisperer's words. You must mend, not merely break. She held up the staff, its crystal glowing, and from her pouch, the moon petal pulsed with gentle light. I do not come to fight you, chill heart shadow. Elara projected her voice, letting it resonate with the warmth of her heart, the strength of her connections. I come to understand, to offer comfort, to mend what was broken. The swirling shadows around the spire faltered, a ripple of surprise passing through them. Comfort? The voice echoed, a note of disbelief in its tone. There is no comfort in the end, only stillness. But stillness can be peaceful, not desolate, Elara countered, taking another step closer, her light a small defiant beacon in the vast darkness. You are born of sorrow, of forgotten things, but even sorrow can find solace. Even endings can lead to new beginnings. She focused her will, drawing upon the immense, interconnected warmth she had cultivated. The moon petal glowed brilliantly, channeling the starlight shard's pure energy. The staff in her hand pulsed with vibrant, verdant life. Elara raised both hands, not in attack, but in an embrace. A wave of shimmering, golden warmth, imbued with the soft, silvery light of the moon petal and the pure, clear energy of the starlight shard, surged from Elara. It was not a violent force, but a gentle, pervasive wave of comfort, understanding, and love. It swept through the cavern, touching the swirling shadows of forgotten memories. As the warmth washed over them, the ephemeral shapes did not disperse but transformed. The sharp edges of their despair softened. They became less frantic, more serene. Elara focused, letting her heart pour out, not just warmth, but acknowledgement. Kaneo see you, she silently projected. Kai hear your sorrow. Adeonan. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. Ida. Untanin, Hainishi. The colossal spire of ice, the heart of the chill heart shadow, began to glow with a soft inner luminescence, not blue-black, but a gentle, pearlescent white. Cracks not of breaking but of release began to spiderweb across its surface. The mournful voice echoed one last time, no longer filled with weariness, but with a profound, almost relieved sigh. Acknowledged. Understood. The spire did not shatter. Instead, it slowly, gracefully, began to melt. But it was not a melting into water. It was a melting into light. The icy crystals dissolved into a swirling mist of gentle starlight, imbued with a soft, comforting warmth. The pervasive cold in the cavern receded, replaced by a fresh, crisp air that carried the faint scent of blossoming flowers. The swirling shadows of forgotten memories, now freed from their icy prison, transformed into flickering motes of golden dust, dancing playfully in the newly luminous cavern before drifting upwards, carried by a gentle breeze, out into the world. They were not gone but transformed, now carriers of remembrance rather than despair. Elara stood in the center of the cavern, bathed in the soft ethereal light, utterly drained but filled with a profound sense of peace and accomplishment. The chill heart shadow was not destroyed, but understood, transformed, and released. The balance was restored. She emerged from the whispering peaks days later, weary but radiant. The mountains, once forbidding, now glowed with a faint, hopeful warmth. The mist had cleared, revealing vibrant green slopes where before there had been only rock and ice. Animals, long absent, began to stir in the valleys. Hearthglen was transformed. The oppressive cold was gone, replaced by the gentle warmth of a true spring day. The communal hearth roared with a joyful golden flame, casting dancing light on the faces of the villagers. Master Eldrin, his face alight with wonder, greeted her at the village edge. Elara, the warmth, it has returned. The chill heart shadow. It is gone? Elara smiled, a deep, knowing smile. It is not gone, Master Eldrin. It is transformed. It has found its peace. And the warmth, it is everywhere. In all of us. She held up the moon petal, now glowing with a steady, serene light, and the starlight shard which pulsed in harmony. The hearthstone is not a stone, Eldrin. It is the connection, the understanding that warmth is love, comfort, and compassion, shared amongst all living things. From that day forward, Elara was not just Elara, but Elara, the hearthkeeper. She tended not only to the physical hearths of Hearthglen, ensuring their flames burned bright, but to the invisible hearths within the hearts of her people. She taught them to listen to the whisper of the world, to offer empathy to sorrow, to find resilience in despair, and to always, always foster connection. The moon petal, a tiny beacon of hope, now rested upon the communal hearth, its light mingling with the fire, a constant reminder of the journey Elara had taken, and the warmth she had brought back. The chill heart shadow, though never fully forgotten, became a legend whispered by the fireside, a tale of how sorrow could be understood and transformed by the power of a single brave heart. And as the years passed, Hearthglen flourished, a beacon of warmth and light in a world that sometimes forgot its own inner fire. Elara, the hearthkeeper, watched over it all, her heart glowing with the quiet, boundless warmth of 1,000 interconnected hearths, forever tending the flame of hope, understanding, and love. The world slept soundly, wrapped in the gentle embrace of her keeping.